Alright, so now the next topic that we'll be talking about is the process of fertilization, right? We have understood everything. We have seen everything. We have, understood the structure of the gametes also. We have already talked about the reproductive systems, the male reproductive system, the female reproductive system. Now we are starting a very important topic, which is fertilization. So first, what is the meaning of fertilization? What do we understand by the term fertilization? So see, it's again a very simple term, a term which you all are familiar with, right? What is the meaning of fertilization? How do we define fertilization? It is fusion of male and female gamete, right? And as a result of the process of fertilization, what are we going to get? We are going to get a zygote, right? We are going to get a zygote, and this zygote, it is diploid, right? It is diploid. Why is this zygote diploid? Because the female gamete, ovum, how many chromosomes does ovum has? It has 23 chromosomes. And the sperm cells, the sperm, how many chromosomes does sperm have? 23. They are going to fuse, right? In the process of fertilization, what is happening? The fusion of the male and female gamete is happening, and they are going to form zygote, which carries the blueprint of further development. And this zygote is going to have how many chromosomes? It is going to have 46 chromosomes. Zygote is a diploid structure, right? So now see, what is fertilization? Achha, one more very important point. Fertilization is also called as syngamy. So it involves the fusion of two haploid gametes, right? We have already seen this. It involves the fusion of two haploid gametes, each containing 23 chromosomes, producing a zygote which is going to contain 46 chromosomes, right? See here, egg carrying 23 chromosomes, sperm carrying 23 chromosomes. It is going to result into formation of a diploid structure which is called as the zygote, right? Now see, what are the roles of the gametes? What are the contribution of the gametes? Now the functional role and contribution of the male and the female gamete are very different, right? अगर हम इसको एक छोटे से summary के form में अगर हम बात करेंगे, so of course you all know the difference between the sizes of the male and the female gamete, right? Male gamete is sperm, it is very small, right? It is small as compared to the female gamete, and female gamete is large, right? Female gamete is large. So the main contribution of the male gamete is basically the chromosomes, right? The genetic material. And the main contribution of the female gamete, it includes, of course, the chromosomes, but it includes the cytoplasm and the cell organelles as well. All right, so let's talk about it. Contribution of the male gamete. The spermatozoa simply delivers the paternal chromosomes to the site of the fertilization, right? We already know, we are already aware about the parts of the sperm, the head, the neck, the middle piece and the tail. And the head contains what? It contains the nucleus, which is carrying 23 chromosomes. So what is the main contribution of the sperm? The main contribution of the sperm is the chromosomes. All right, it must travel a relatively long distance and is small, efficient and highly streamlined, right? Because once it enters into the female genital tract, it has to travel quite a long distance to reach the female gamete. Okay, now let's talk about the contribution of the female gamete. Female gamete must provide all cellular organelles, inclusions, nourishment, genetic programming necessary to support the development of the embryo for nearly a week after conception. And that's why we see the difference in their size as well. All right, the ovum, it is containing what? It is containing the cytoplasm, and it is contributing all these things. Next, the volume of this gamete is therefore much greater than that of a spermatozoa. All right. Ovulation releases a secondary oocyte which is suspended in the meta phase of meiosis 2. In previous videos, we have discussed this thing very properly in very much detail. Now, after fertilization, the diameter of the secondary oocyte is more than twice the entire length of the spermatozoa. The ratio of their volume is even more striking, approximately 2000:1. Right? We have been learning from lower classes that the size of the gametes, it differs, right? We know that the female gamete, it is of greater size as compared to that of the male gamete. So we can see the difference here. What is the difference in their volumes? Now, next is preparation of the male gamete. So see, the spermatozoa deposited in the vagina, they are already motile as a result of the contact with the secretions of the seminal glands. Now, the spermatozoa, however, cannot accomplish fertilization until they have been exposed to the conditions in the female reproductive tract. Now see, next, this is site of fertilization. So what is the site of fertilization? The site of fertilization is the fallopian tube. Okay, it is the fallopian tube. We had seen what is fallopian tube in the female reproductive structure. So what is the site of fertilization? The site of fertilization is the fallopian tube, as we can see here in the diagram, right? This is the first part of the fallopian tube which is closest to the ovary. A very important question, right? Infundibulum, then we have ampulla, and then we have isthmus. So what is the site of fertilization? The site of fertilization is this ampullary isthmic junction. All right, so this is a very important point. Fallopian tube, of course we know, but in the fallopian tube, ampullary isthmic junction. Okay, ampullary isthmic junction, a very important point, very important point. All right, now see. Now, the fertilization typically occurs near the junction between the ampulla and the isthmus of the uterine tube. Fertilization normally occurs in the ampulla of the uterine tube within 12 to 24 hours of ovulation. All right, sperm can remain viable for about 72 hours after deposition in the vagina, although a secondary oocyte is viable for only about 24 hours after ovulation. इस पे भी previous exams में question आ चुका है, ठीक है, viability पे question आता है, तो यहाँ पे हम clearly देख सकते हैं that the sperms, they are going to remain viable for about 72 hours, right? And on the other hand, the secondary oocyte which was released as a result of ovulation, वो कितने टाइम के लिए वायबल है? 24 hours after ovulation. Okay, now fertile period. See, so of course, you know, we know that the entire duration of the menstrual cycle is about 28 days. अब उसमें भी कुछ ऐसा period होता है where the chances of the fertilization are the highest. Okay, of course, it is very important that, you know, when the sperm is entering into the female reproductive tract, the ovum, it should be present at that time in the female reproductive tract. So we know that, you know, 28 days का क्या होता है? Normally the duration of the menstrual cycle is 28 days, and we say that on about 14th day, what occurs? Ovulation occurs, right? Ovulation occurs. तो 14th day के आसपास का जो period होगा, you know, plus minus 2 to 3 days, that is going to be the fertile period. In that period, the chances of the fertilization are highest. Okay, so see, let's have a look at this particular, you know, diagram here. See, this is the most fertile day. This is a cycle of 28 days. On the 14th day, what is happening? Ovulation is happening, and as I told you, plus minus 2 to 3 days. So see here, this is the most fertile period here, starting from 11th day to 14th, and then we can extend it to 15th and the 16th day. And remember, for how long is the secondary oocyte viable in the reproductive tract? It is for 24 hours. Okay, so here, during this period, the chances of the fertilization are going to be highest, and this is the fertile period. All right, see here. Now, the pregnancy is most likely to occur if the intercourse takes place during a 3-day window from 2 days before ovulation to 1 day after ovulation. So, this window, this is what? This is the fertile period. Okay, next is transportation of the sperm, right? We've understood everything, we have understood the contribution of the gametes, we've understood what is the site of fertilization, then we've also seen that, during which period there are maximum chances of fertilization. Now let's talk about the transportation of the sperm. Okay, so now of about 200 million sperms introduced into the vagina, fewer than 2 million, they are going to reach the cervix of the uterus, and only about 200 to 250 are going to reach the secondary oocyte. देखो ये जो रास्ता होता है, the rasta or the path that the sperm has to travel to reach the secondary oocyte, it is very difficult. Okay, once they enter into the vagina, they are exposed to the low pH of the vagina. Okay, and then also there are phagocytes which are present, then there are muscles which are present in the uterus, जिसकी वजह से क्या होता है, the sperms they get destroyed. Okay, they get destroyed due to the environment of the female reproductive tract, and ultimately कितने sperms reach करते हैं to the secondary oocyte? Only 200 to 250 sperms are going to reach the secondary oocyte. A spermatozoa can propel itself at a speed of only about 12.5 centimeters per hour. So in theory, it should take spermatozoa several hours to reach the upper portion of the uterine tubes. Now, the actual passage time, however, ranges from 2 hours to a little as 30 minutes. Again, it is going to vary. Now, the contraction of the uterine musculature and the ciliary currents of the uterine tube, they have been suggested as likely mechanisms for accelerating the movement of the spermatozoa from the vagina to the site of fertilization, right? We already know that fallopian tube, it is lined by what kind of epithelium? It is lined by ciliated epithelium. So that ciliated epithelium is going to help in the movement. And then of course the contraction, the muscular contractions, the muscle of the uterus is going to contract, which is going to help in the movement of the sperm to reach the female gamete. Okay, all right. Next, the passage of the sperm through the uterus and then into the uterine tube results mainly from contractions of the walls of these organs. Alright, now in general, a male with a sperm count below 20 million per millimeter is functionally sterile because too few spermatozoa, they are going to survive to reach to fertilize an oocyte, right? We have already seen, 200 million spermatozoa were getting released. उसमें से भी सिर्फ 200 to 250 spermatozoa were able to reach the oocyte. Now, if the count is so less, if it is less than 20 million, then of course, the chances of the fertilization, they are going to reduce further. Alright, now while it is true that only one spermatozoa fertilizes an oocyte, dozen spermatozoa are required for successful fertilization. Now, the additional sperms are essential because one sperm does not contain enough acrosomal enzyme to disrupt the corona radiata, the layer of the follicle cells that surrounds the oocyte. If you guys are going to recall the diagram of the oocyte, we have seen that, there is a layer of the follicular cells which is called as the corona radiata. तो उसको penetrate करेंगे, plasma membrane of the secondary oocyte को penetrate करेंगे, right? इन सब के लिए enzymes चाहिए रहते हैं. Okay, so the other sperms, what are they doing? They are helping in that penetration. Alright, now the next important part is sperm capacitation. देखो sperm जब enter होता है into the female reproductive tract, at that point it is not capable of fertilization. हम लोग अगर simplest language में समझें तो sperm के around ना एक cholesterol का layer होता है. Okay, there is a cholesterol coating. So this cholesterol coating, it has to be removed so that एक sperm जो है वो oocyte को fertilize कर पाए, and this process is called as the sperm capacitation. और ये कहाँ पे होता है? It happens in the female reproductive tract. Multiple times this question has been asked. कहाँ पे होगा ये process? It is going to happen in female reproductive tract. So this has been asked multiple times as a question. यहाँ पे आप लोग clearly देख सकते हो that there is a cholesterol coating, right? और as a result of capacitation, what is happening? ये cholesterol coating remove हो जाती है. So sperm that reach the vicinity of the oocyte within minutes after ejaculation are not capable of fertilizing it until about 7 hours later. During this time, in the female reproductive tract, mostly in the uterine tube, the sperm is going to undergo which process? It is going to undergo the process of capacitation. Now, it is series of functional changes that cause the sperm's tail to beat even more vigorously and prepare its plasma membrane to fuse with the oocyte's plasma membrane. All right. During capacitation, sperms are acted upon by the secretions in the female reproductive tract that results in the removal of cholesterol, glycoprotein and proteins from the plasma membrane around the head of the sperm, making it capable to fertilize the secondary oocyte.